I'm Claire Parker.
And I'm Ashley Hamilton. And this is Celebrity Memoir Book Club, the podcast where we read a book and soak up all of the violently anxious words stemming off of the page so we can relate to you in a way that won't ruin your life. If you don't want that distillation, you can read the words pure and see how bad it is for your health.
And if you do want it, welcome on in. We also read 5-star reviews at the end. Thank you so much to all of our 5-star worms.
We adore you. Claire, if you were to write a celebrity memoir, is there anything that happened in your life that would be included in a chapter last week?
It wouldn't be included yet unless I can do it successfully. But as you guys know, this is the summer of my life. I'm having fun every day. It's exhausting. This weekend,
tired.
We went to Gov Ball, and then I went to a party, and then I went to Ashley's birthday party, and then I went to my friend Adrian's birthday party. And you know what people love to do at parties?
What?
Stand.
It's awful.
It doesn't matter how many seats there are, how much ground is available, if there's a bench on every wall. People love to fucking stand. And it is one of my biggest party pet peeves because we could all go longer if we all just agreed to be calm and sit down. And so at Ashley's, Ashley had a park birthday party this weekend. And I brought a blankie because I said, I don't know about you, but gravity comes calling. You know what I mean? I want to be down there. And so I brought it and I finally just said to everybody, can we sit down? And I got everyone to sit down. There was a good circle.
I think at some point there was 2 to 3 good circles.
And it was me. I started it. I left for 5 minutes to go to the bathroom. Sit somewhere else, if you will. When I came back, everyone was back standing. Nobody sat down again. But my point is this. I know it's possible for me to use my power for good and get everyone to sit down, but I didn't realize just how important I was to the equation. But now that I see hope, I'm like excited to enact. I'm excited to change the culture of American parties. I think the youth call them a kickback.
Yeah.
A gathering of friends.
The summer of your life will be happening on Tush.
The summer of my life will be happening crisscross applesauce. Unless necessary otherwise. Like you can't dance. You can't go to the club and sit right on the ground. Do you know what I mean?
You can. You can.
And I have, and I've gotten bloody. Like I've gotten injured. And so I'm testing the boundaries of the seat. And I'm finding those boundaries and I'm sitting on them. And I'll be damned if you see me out, pop a squat.
Fun.
I wouldn't say this embarkment is going to go in the memoir, but I do think if I successfully achieve a sitting peak in this country, it will be in my Wikipedia one day.
Great.
Okay, you don't sound happy about it.
I am happy about it. I'm just too tired from not having you around because I was standing that I can't even express myself.
Well, up to your birthday's over. It's time to work.
And it's time to sit.
Ashley, if you're a celebrity, would anything from this week enter your memoir?
You know, I don't think it should because I'm thinking about what would enter my memoir. And I feel like I had such an incredible week, but it would be one of those like gobbledygook chapters where you're just like saying things and there's no real story to it. Like I had an incredible week. I went to Hozier, my best friend.
Yeah, Ashley discovered Hozier at South by Southwest where he had already been booked to play, but it was an accident and she was the first to be like, wait a minute.
He's actually so talented and people are sleeping on him to this day. So I saw Hozier. The next day I went to Connecticut with my family. The next day my parents were in town and I like went for a long walk with my dad. We did like a pastry crawl of Brooklyn. The next day I went to Gov Ball with you and then we went to a party. And then the next day I had a birthday party and then I like kept hanging out the whole entire day. It was just like nonstop hanging out and doing exactly what I like, which is chatting with my friends and listening to music in the most expansive and exciting way possible.
I was almost like, when were you listening to music? And then I remember that day-long event.
Yeah, the 2 concerts I just mentioned.
Yeah. One of them was like
the whole day. One of them was actually 3 concerts. But like, it wouldn't be interesting to read. I don't even think it's interesting to hear about right now. I don't have a lesson from it other than like,
this is Ashley's favorite lesson. She goes, did you know I love hanging out with my friends? And if I'm feeling a little sad, the best thing I could do is call up a friend and hang out. And I go, yeah, I know, because I listen to you every 3 weeks, rediscover. This week,
it's the summer of spelling.
It's finally happened. Years and years of promising later. I think at this point, how many memoirs have we done? 1 of Tori or 2?
2.
Okay, whoa. We already did 2 Tori Spelling memoirs. We're about to do 2 more.
So if you haven't listened to those, highly recommend you take a quick pause and you go back and listen to Spelling It Like It Is and Storytelling.
And on the Patreon, we are going to be reading her mom's memoir and I think Mary Jo, the ex-wife of Dean McDermott.
McDermott.
What? That feels so irrelevant.
It is.
I actually don't think anybody would have known to correct me.
So for the Patreon, we're going to be reading Candyland by Candy Spelling. We're going to be reading some book by Mary Jo something.
Eunice.
I
think her name is Mary Josephine Eunice.
Do you remember in 3rd grade when grabbing someone's weenus was the funniest thing anyone could do?
No.
Oh, you didn't go to school like mine.
I was quite prudish.
Okay, so you don't want to call her Mary Jo Weenus. I understand. She's been disrespected enough by Tori Spelling. She doesn't need it from this podcast.
We'll be reading that on the Patreon as well. Ashley will be listening to the podcast.
I've been listening to Spelling It Like It Is. Maybe that's just the pod. Oh, Misspelling is the podcast.
It's too much. She also has a book where she teaches you how to host called Celebratory.
Oh my God, should we have a celebration?
Tori Spelling, when will she be on the podcast? Who here knows her? Anyway, this is about to be the summer of spelling. All in all, it'll be about 2 weeks, but buckle in, the summer of our lives. We've been promising and teasing this for years.
I'm really excited to finally be diving in. I will tell you something right now. Reading a Tori Spelling book, I feel like we build it up in our heads where we're like, oh my God, Tori Spelling is such a fucking wackadoodle. What could possibly happen in this book? And then you read it and you go, oh my God, it lives up to the hype. The way that she can turn any single day of existing into the most harrowing story you've ever heard solely by her own making. Like no one around her. What's chaos theory? It is her. Like the way that she in a silo can turn any event into the worst thing that's ever happened to someone.
If you sent her to the grocery store to buy chips for your viewing party.
Do not say chips and dip. Trying to parse out what dip means would kill her.
Yes. What's something that you do normal? Drop your kid off at school?
Nope. No.
She's got 5 kids. She can't figure it out.
Taking her kid to go to bed, like putting her child to bed is something that takes up like 8 chapters of this book because you will not believe how traumatic it's been.
Okay, to the children of Tori, we're sorry. I can't help what your mother has done to your family by putting it all out there. And I wish I could protect you, but my job is quite literally to read what she said.
This book should not exist. It is damaging to the people named. So this was her 2nd book that came out. So she spends a lot of time apologizing for the results of storytelling while still naming a lot of names and presumably destroying relationships further.
You know that thing where it's easier to catch up with a friend you saw yesterday than a friend you haven't seen in 2 years? Like the 2-year friend is like, well, what's new with you? And you're like, nothing, I guess. But then the friend yesterday, you're like, and since then I've gotten a coffee. And then do you remember that thing we were talking about? I remembered another thing. And then you'll never guess who I ran into at the coffee store. That's Tori Spelling.
Yeah.
It's the more books she writes, the more she has to say. Because nothing is too small.
Oh, nothing is too small. I'll never forget jury duty.
I also want to give a shout out to Tori Spelling's co-writer, Hillary Lifton, who I believe is her consistent ghostwriter, who really has a voice that I just love. I can't get enough of her.
Incredible writer. So this book starts off where storytelling left off. She had just found out that she was pregnant, and now we are picking up at her first pregnancy with her oldest son, Liam. The introduction begins with her getting an ultrasound. She gets her first 3D ultrasound, and she is extremely concerned that her son has like an inordinately large nose.
Head, eyes, ears, but well, I didn't want to admit it, even to myself, but something was bothering me. His nose. I kept coming back to it. I was worried. Well, it's just that it looked a little, was I even allowed to think this? It looked a little, large.
Healthy was good news, very good news, the best news, but not exactly what I was worrying about right then. On the way to the car, Dean was quiet. Once we had gotten in and were driving, he finally said, I can't believe what I just witnessed.
So she does insist on asking the doctor, is his nose normal sized? Is there any reason it might look larger on this scan than it would be in real life? And the doctor's like, well, it could be like pushed up against something. And she's like, yes, that's a pushed up nose. Thank God.
I was picking apart my unborn baby. I couldn't help but flash back to the day my mother told me I'd be pretty as soon as you have a nose job, which incidentally, because I just did a quick bit of research, is the introduction to storytelling. Her mom telling her you'll be pretty as soon as you get a nose job.
I always claimed, only half joking, that moment has scarred me for life. And now here I was worrying about the facial features of my own child before he even had a chance to breathe air. Also, it's a boy. He could be ugly.
Yeah, they're totally allowed.
As long as he gets a job and does well for himself financially, he's allowed to be ugly.
If you just like dress cool and have a way about you, you can be a really ugly man, like a Barry Keoghan.
No, he got a lot of work done.
Okay, what about the bear guy?
What about Harvey Weinstein? I don't know. I think there's a lot of examples of men who are pretty hideous doing well for themselves if they accrue enough power.
Oh my God, Randall.
Emmett. Okay, now that we've taken a good amount of time to name people we think are ugly.
Who does Tori think is ugly? Her own son.
Fetus. It's a fetus.
Her unborn baby. So she calls her friend Jenny to be like, what the fuck? Why do I not think my kid is beautiful? And Jenny was like, that's just like what we do. That's Mommywood. It's Hollywood for moms.
And she goes, talking to Jenny made me feel better. But then I started wondering, is that what all mothers do? Or is it just what we do? Jenny, me, and the equally shallow friends around us. Are we normal moms or are we living in Mommywood?
Hollywood is glittering, glamorous, a superficial land of dreamers, wannabes, and stars. Mommywood takes place on the same set, the palm trees and the eternal sunshine of Los Angeles. But casting is difficult and requires 9 months of faithful commitment to Rocky Road ice cream plus labor and delivery.
So she realizes this wasn't just me worrying about the size of my unborn child's nose. Now I was struggling with a much greater feat that when push came to baby, I was going to be just like my mother. Which already, I have to say, is starting to sound like yes.
It sounds like, yeah,
if
you
your
are.
First thing you think when you see your baby for the first time is it ugly? Bad news.
And she's like laughing about how she has a friend, I think it's still Jenny, who doesn't think her kid is pretty for a long time. I'm just like, I don't know. Why are you talking about this?
I feel like it's one thing for your mom to think you're ugly as a baby, but like, why'd your mom's friend have to put that in writing?
Yeah. Like I said, she's constantly apologizing for like the way storytelling ruined a couple of relationships. And now here she is in Mommywood. I can't wait for the next book to find out if Jenny ever stopped talking to her.
This is the story of my definitely amateur, sometimes serious, often bumbling, never to be finished attempt to make it in ... Mommywood. So her primary concern is she's like, can I have normal children and raise them in Hollywood?
The answer is a hard no.
She can't do anything. She could barely put shoes on, let alone raise children well.
I feel like that was my conclusion throughout this entire book is like, can this thing be done? Yes. Can Tori do it?
No.
So she births Liam, her oldest son, into a reality television show. She has her first son, but Tori and Dean are shooting Tori and Dean in Love, a reality TV show about Tori and Dean running an inn.
For some reason, it sounds like Liam's not allowed to shoot with them, which I find odd because isn't the whole point that like a family lives in the inn? Why wouldn't your son be part of your family on the reality show about your family in an inn?
I think he's shooting with them, but like not the parts where they're like fixing up the inn and serving the guests.
So she's like, being a parent is all about giving your child choices and opportunities. This was on a little crazy, but Liam actually prefers the weeklies to the cute board books and picture books we buy for him. So it turns out one of the weird things about being raised by Tori and Dean is that if you're a 1-year-old child, you love Us Weekly. Some days our baby nurse, Patsy, and I take the kids on a walk to the nearby Coffee Bean. We stop at the corner newsstand to pick up new weeklies. I buy Liam, now 20 months old, a no sugar added, coffee-free chocolate iced blended and an English scone. Then he sits in a chair drinking his ice blended and looking at magazines like a big boy. If big boys are fascinated by who wore what to the Oscars.
So Liam is so thrilled when he sees a picture of his mommy or even himself in the weeklies and he'll show people and she's embarrassed and she doesn't know if that's like cool or weird.
But she can't deny him the opportunity to be shot by paparazzi because he loves it.
He loves the paparazzi. Cameras have surrounded Liam since the day he was born. They're both mundane and fascinating to him. You could see it on his face. He was thinking, they're back. Everyone's here. My family's all together again. He like loves the camera crew. He loves the paparazzi.
When he sees the paparazzi, he screams in delight and smiles for the camera. There's no trying to block them by holding him inside a jacket or pulling up a stroller blanket to create a shield. Even when he was only 1 year old, he seemed to know exactly what I was trying to do. Ruin his shot and would get mad. Tori,
what the fuck are you talking about?
Protect your children.
If I was a hairdresser, he'd request a trim every other day. Lots of people have jobs that affect their children in one way or another. As far as things go, I don't think that we're inflicting major trauma. Okay, well, that remains to be seen. I can't change that the public knows who Liam is. So then she talks about going to Liam's preschool and she sees Deacon Philippi, Reese Witherspoon and Ryan Phillippi's son. And she's like, see, we all like identify and know about these kids in Hollywood. It just is the way Hollywood is. But it's like, I mean, I guess I haven't read 3 books by Deacon Phillippi's mom, but the way Tori has like enmeshed her children in the public eye in a way that like, I don't think anyone cares about, but she like keeps on just shoving them to the forefront.
And then she keeps claiming that there's no use protecting them from it. because everybody knows anyway.
It's inevitable.
The truth is that Liam's life is already like that. We were walking to a department store and a mom looked at him and asked, was he in my son's class? Then, is he a catalog baby like my daughter? Then she recognized me and said, oh, never mind, and hurried away embarrassed. So she's like, why would I even try to keep him off TV if everybody's going to know him anyway? I'm like, well, it seems like you started shooting him at 3 months. So maybe try.
Maybe people wouldn't have known him anyway. I grew up in Hollywood, but like I said, I didn't grow up with the paparazzi, not like there are now. I don't want him to feel embarrassed or restricted by who he is. There's a point where the protecting can do more harm than the threat itself. So she's like, I can control the reality show, and that's why it's good that we're putting him on reality TV. The show is my livelihood, and it allows me and Dean to spend more time with Liam, and it keeps our family together. And then this is what I felt was very honest, is when she says, I have no other life skills. Entertainment is my life. I was born into it. I grew up in it, and I'm stuck in it. I love it. And if I like make a reality show with my son, I can spend time with him.
She's also like, that's the only work I can do. And if I want to give him the opportunity to go to college, I need to work and put him on reality TV so that I can afford to pay for his college.
Exactly.
When Liam is older, I'll try to give him options. She has such Will Smith disease. It's so funny because later her and Dean have troubles parenting, and the therapist is like, I've never seen a woman and a man have this dynamic. You guys have such like gender reversed married problems. The way that she's like, well, what am I supposed to do? Make a better decision for my family? I'm providing for my family, and that's the best thing a human being can do. And I do agree it's important to provide for your family, but also you could not have 5 kids. You could stop your shopping addiction. She's like a crippling shopping addiction. She sells and buys homes within a year regularly, oftentimes at a loss because it's such an expensive hobby to be constantly buying, selling, furnishing homes and moving. I mean, there are good public schools that she could send her kid to public school. I mean, there's so many options she could have to find a better balance where she doesn't have to exploit her children. And the fact that that's never an option.
It's never even something she's considered. And that's the thing, is she did grow up in weird circumstances.
And it's made her weird, and she hates that about herself. All she does is complain about her horrible childhood and like the horrible life it's led her to.
And never once has she considered like how to be normal. She's like, I don't know. I tried to be normal because I showed up in normal town and said, hello, I'm wearing the most normal hat I could find. Don't you guys respect me as a norm? And then everyone goes, what are you doing?
I went to the top hat store and I said, what would a middle-class person buy? And then I wore my middle-class top hat to your block party. And now you're all looking at me like I'm crazy.
So then I burst into tears and I said, it'll never be me. And now everyone's looking at me weirder. Why?
I took a shit in my top hat. I was so upset.
I punched my neighbor in the face, as neighbors do.
And now nobody wants me to come to the next block party. I guess it's because I'm famous. Tori, you live in LA. You're the least famous person there.
As I left the swimming party with a satchel full of human shit.
You guys, you can't imagine how often she's covered in shit. She has no idea what to do with a diaper, and she's putting them in the top hat. There is no real top hat, but this isn't far from the truth.
Nobody at this baby swimming class had ever seen a full baby diaper before, so I had to just carry it around like I meant to. I just carried around this bag of shit like it was on purpose so that no one thought I was weird.
I started eating it. I was eating the shit like it was a taco.
What was I going to do? Ask the other moms in Hollywood swim class for help? They would see me and they go, that's Tori Spelling. That's a literal famous person. That's a literal famous person who doesn't know what to do with shit. So I had to do the only normal thing, and that's refuse to ask for help, scream at the coach, and walk away.
Sorry. Okay, now we're like overstepping and into what's actually in this book. So then she talks about her baby honeymoon.
The baby honeymoon was actually having the baby and then having 2 months of no work before they went back to filming Tori and Dean in Love. So for this 2 months, they have like a ton of time to just hang out, and they travel because Liam is such a chill, easy baby. And they go to like London to do press, which I guess is still not months off. But at one point she's like, okay, we should do this London trip. And Dean was like, I think going to London is so stupid, but if we're going to go to London, we should also go to Scotland.
And they're like, if we're in Scotland, why wouldn't we also go to Toronto? And I'm like, well, because they're not close. Anyway, they did 3 long weeks away.
And then when they're away, she's like, I really don't feel good. And she never once considers that it's because she is like 2 months postpartum traveling with a newborn baby.
Internationally, yeah.
Instead, she's like, couldn't be jet lag. I must be pregnant again. Pregnant again? That sounds kind of nice.
She also goes, it was probably still too soon to tell, but having Liam didn't feel like a disruption. It felt like a gift. When work started up again, my soap opera habit was gone for good. And so she's like talking about how happy she would be pregnant because she's like, well, I had this first kid and actually I loved it. And I'm like, yeah, what happened next then, though? The way that she's like, I didn't even think Liam was annoying. I thought he was cool. Little did we know. She then went on to have 4 more kids.
The other thing is she like is talking about how nice it is to have a baby and how easy it is to like work and travel and have a baby. But she's also talking about how she loved just doing nothing and watching soap operas when she was on maternity leave. And also she would like knit this blanket that she wanted to give to Liam. And because she had to go back to work, she never finished the blanket. And to this day, it's sitting in a storage box, which we now know was like repoed.
That's horrible. That's not funny, Ashley. That's sad. Some little boy's unfinished baby blanket his mom forgot to give him 17 years ago is just in the garbage. Why would it be there when it means so little to someone?
In many ways, this book is the blanket.
I have to say, I kept being like, and what was the point of this chapter? But there was no point.
No.
That's kind of the cool thing about Tori is she doesn't really think something has to happen to tell you about it.
I like trying to guess the end of the chapter at the beginning of the chapter because it's so hard.
She's like, I had this amazing time off and then we went back to work and we ended up doing this 3-week trip. And what happened was not much, really. Went well. So far, so good.
Blanket's not finished, though.
The worst thing that happened is they flew first class and Peter Falk. Do you know who that is? Falk with an Falk?
No, but I assume he's someone
famous because she's like, he moved because he didn't want to be near a baby. So she's like, besides the Peter Falk of it all, what is all of that though? Somebody moved chairs once on a flight?
Also, can I say, back to the shit of it all, Liam was a good baby. Tori was a
bad mom.
She was a stressful mom. I'm like, I wouldn't mind sitting next to like a sweet, quiet baby on a flight, but if the mom is going to keep raw shit in her diaper bag, I don't want to sit there.
So now she's talking, next chapter is Daddy's Boy, and it's about how hard it is to have a hands-on dad. So she wants to do everything different than her parents. She wants to raise her own kids instead of having a nanny.
That being said, she did immediately get a baby nanny.
Yeah, she has a night nurse and a nanny.
But she doesn't want them to raise the kids. She just wants them to like kind of hang out.
Okay, so what's worse than having a nanny raise your kids? Having your husband raise your kids.
So because Dean already had a kid, Jack, with his first wife, Mary Jo, he didn't have any questions. He wasn't worried. He didn't have like new parent fears and jitters. So he would just like leap to action whenever anything happened. And Tori was like, okay, why am I not being given the chance to leap to action? Could you leap slower so that I could leap first?
And it's funny because at the beginning of the chapter, she goes, as far as Dean was concerned, it was no big deal. He had the baby, grabbed the bottle and went in. But in my mind, who would be the first to get to Liam became a race. I started calculating. If I have the monitor on my side of the bed and make myself wake up early enough, then I'll see his head pop up before he even makes a noise. Then I can flip off the monitor and shoot out of the bed before Dean stirs. Meanwhile, by the end of this chapter, she's like, the thing our therapist helped come up with is Dean will say, the baby's awake, and then look at me and kind of count and wait for me to go get the baby. So I'm like, okay, so you thought it was a race to the baby, but you weren't running. It's so funny to be like, I couldn't beat him there, even though I was not moving towards the baby.
I didn't get to share the newness with anyone. It makes me sad sometimes. So then because Dean is so quick to the baby when Tori is still, I don't know, I guess like putting on eyelashes before she can go get the baby. That's mean. I feel like it sounded mean when I said that.
I don't know Dean McShermott. But the idea of him being the good parent, I can't.
Especially because in her podcast, she was like, immediately after every pregnancy, I wanted to divorce him.
Well, because he was working too hard at being a parent. She was like, I guess you have this on your own.
She says he was working too hard at his hobbies. He would just like leave and ride motorcycles for months at a time.
God, who is changing these babies?
Nobody.
It is so funny to be like, I just cannot get to my baby before my husband who's in the desert racing on salt flats or whatever.
Because Dean is so quick to the baby, Liam likes him more. And she's always like freaking out about how Liam hates her. And that's kind of a theme throughout this book is her trying to get her son to like her.
But so she takes it personally because she's like so afraid of having the relationship with her children that her mom had with her. So then she gets convinced that she has the disease her mom has, which is like a smell that babies don't like. And she is obsessed with being like, my baby hates me.
Yeah.
And Dina's like, you have to stop saying Liam hates you. Have you ever heard of a self-fulfilling prophecy? You're a really good mom. You just have to believe in yourself. I really can't think of anything more toxic than looking at a baby that can't sit up and being like, so you hate me? Okay, so we have beef?
Okay, I literally walked into the room and the baby started crying. So what could that be about? I'm not even going to ask if he's hungry or sleepy or poopy.
Imagine being in a room with your baby and like texting your friend in the corner and being like, I can't fucking believe this guy.
In order to try to make her son like her, Tori decides to spend time with him alone.
I can't believe that wasn't like your first instinct.
In order to spend time with him alone, because they both have such busy schedules, she's like, okay, I guess I can do swim class solo with him. So she takes him to swim class.
Which there's an adult there. Like, it is funny that she's like, I guess I can chauffeur him to the next adult.
Yeah.
She's not like in the pool with him. She's watching her baby with an adult.
So then she is at swim class. The instructor walks back to Tori, hands her Liam and goes, he pooped. Yipes. I was the mom. Naturally, I'd changed the diaper. I'd changed his diaper a million times by now. Except this was a swim diaper and it was full of poo. So then she explains why a swim diaper is more difficult to change than a regular diaper.
It sounds like their pants, and then like once they get wet, the integrity, I don't know. It was like a wet mess.
It was a more difficult poop than your standard poop, which she has changed a diaper before.
The coach is like, hold the baby over the trash can and like pull off the diaper so that it all falls into the garbage. And she's like, what do you think? I'm bionic woman? I can't do that.
She's like, what do you think? I have a billion hands? I will say, I think we're talking about like a little baby.
Tori can't do anything. I think we're talking about Tori.
So she takes off the swim trunks on a towel, just like smearing poop across this towel.
It gets so fucked up. She goes, so yes, there was a garbage can right there, but I could imagine what the other swimmers would be saying if they saw me throw away a poo-smeared towel. She can't change a diaper and she throws away towels as if they grow on trees. The garbage can was not going to happen. I stuffed the whole thing into my diaper bag. I'd deal with it at home. Okay, here's the insane thing about Tori is she's so insecure about people thinking she's spoiled and rich, but never to the extent where she like just won't buy something.
And never to the extent where she'll just like ask. Like, I think that one of the most down to earth things people can do is ask for help. And so she'll just sit there and be like, me, I don't have a problem. I like having poop in my purse.
She wraps up all of the poop in the towel and puts it in her bag. And then she brings it home. And here's where I am like, Tori, unacceptable.
She doesn't put it away.
She forgets. She just leaves it in the hallway in her house.
And Dean comes home and he was like, what the hell is in that bag? And they laughed and laughed and laughed.
Okay, the problem is their house is covered in piss and shit all the fucking time. I accidentally started next week's book early. The animals that are pissing and shitting in their bed. And I know that to this day, Tori's like, well, he was tired of having the pig shit in the bed when we were sleeping. Like the fact that everybody is pooping their house all the time. Later, she talks about her dog that this book is dedicated to. And she's like, I don't yell at the dog ever. And that's probably why it's not potty trained. And I'm like, no, Ashley doesn't yell at Bug. Bug is potty trained. Like you don't have to yell at a dog to take it outside. I don't know. Everything was pooping and peeing in their house. They're repulsive.
It's disgusting.
I actually would rather be thought of as so spoiled and rich than the girl with like tons of shit in her house. Tons of literal animal and human feces in my home.
I don't even like talking like this.
I know, but she makes us because she says some of the grossest shit I've ever heard in this book. What is it with rich people? I know we saw this last time we read a Tori Spelling book, but it's like Tori Spelling, Hugh Hefner, that lady from Queen of Versailles.
Also, don't a lot of the Real Housewives have piss all over their house?
Why do these people just like squeeze shit out of their dogs on purpose like it's toothpaste onto the floor? I feel like to them, dog shit is toothpaste and to them, the carpet is the toothbrush and they're just squeezing.
No.
That's how I feel.
No.
That's how I feel.
No.
If anybody understands, please let me know. It's so deeply middle class to think you should not have shit in your home. I think it goes back to the French, like cavalry, not cavalry, but kingdoms. I feel like Louis XIV was shitty as hell too.
Ew.
All of them.
When Liam was born, I was happy. We showed him off and celebrated at hotel restaurants across Beverly Hills.
Can I say it is so important to her that you know that they only ever eat at a hotel restaurant? She's going to Beverly Hills. She's going to like the Four Seasons. Why? Who's constantly eating at specifically hotel restaurants?
She loves to see and be seen. Specifically by tourists, I think.
Because nobody in LA cares about her, so she needs to find somebody like new to the town.
She loves that she got back to her original weight very quickly so that she could go shopping and wear her old clothes again. I guess not wear her old clothes again. She says buy new clothes, but she like needs them to be a certain size. I don't know. Then she finds out she's pregnant again and she's like, oh shit, just when I got back to buying jeans. Her friend Jenny is pregnant as well. And she's like, okay, it'll be awesome. Jenny and I will be pregnant at the same time again.
She also says like, she's like, I can't believe I got pregnant. All I did was not take birth control and have unprotected sex.
So then she tells Dean and he's like, cool. And she assumes it's going to be a boy, but then it's a girl.
This book is so funny to try to do on this podcast because you look back and you're like, what happened? Like we read it all this morning, no?
No.
When I read it fresh.
I read some of it last night.
But it's out the mind quick as a wink.
So this essay is about how she found out she was pregnant and she was having a girl and she was excited.
But couched in the context of, can you believe I had just gotten the baby weight off and I got pregnant again on purpose by accident?
And then couched again in the drama of she was about to announce storytelling or like the release of storytelling. It was about to come out. And so she was like, I can't be on the magazine cover twice in such a short amount of time. So I have to hide my pregnancy so that people want to talk about my book. Because if they know about my pregnancy, they won't care about my book.
And don't worry, she has a big coat.
It was gifted.
But like, thank God it was gifted.
But it was beautiful.
It was cashmere. But cashmere in Los Angeles in October, when you're pregnant, you do crazy things.
She was schwitzing.
I don't know what the hell she's talking about here, man. But okay, an important section for the next book is that her friend Memoir, who was in her first book, they're best friends since she was 15. He's like her assistant, CEO, best friend. She calls him her gay, which I think is very humanizing and equal sounding. But he's always being sent to buy her pregnancy tests and always doing it wrong. So they buy like 10 pregnancies tests and she's too stupid to know if it's one line or two.
She's really bad at reading directions. The pregnancy is now public. Storytelling is now out in public. And being pregnant in public is difficult for her because even though she likes being pregnant more the second time around, people are being mean to her. Specifically Chelsea Handler, who an enemy of my enemy is a friend of mine. So I guess me and Tori Spelling are now bestios.
I did not know which direction you were going to go that way. I didn't know who was the enemy, who was the friend.
No, Chelsea Handler is my enemy and Tori Spelling is her enemy. And now Tori Spelling is friend of the pod.
Tori Spelling's the only person with proper boundaries. She thought her and Chelsea were a friend because they had read together for a TV show once. And she like could not believe that her friend that she had never texted once.
I'm on Tori's side.
Oh, I'm 100% on Tori's side. So tell the story.
Okay, so Chelsea Handler apparently just hates Tori Spelling.
I don't even think she does hate Tori Spelling. Can I say I think we have to call a spade a spade? We are, like Chelsea Handler, seeing an easy target.
Yeah.
If I had a TV show where I had to make fun of celebrities every single day, we'd have to include Tori, especially in her prime.
That's so true.
And by prime, I mean back when she had 2 reality TV shows and a book and a second book.
Okay, but I will say what Chelsea Handler's making fun of her for is so mean. So Tori is feeling much more confident in her pregnant body the second time around. And then Chelsea Handler like held up on her TV show a pregnant bikini photo of Tori Spelling and was like, ew, that's so mean.
And she's like, I guess she had to take a break from calling me a horse face. And I was like, oh, poor Tori. People are so mean to you. How do you stand it? You're not a well woman. I could not handle it. And I'm loved on all sides and have a foundation and a sense of self. What are you doing out there on People magazine? How have you lived to tell the tale 7 times over?
The end of this essay is her talking about how her only pregnancy craving was Rocky Road ice cream. And then she found out she didn't even care about Rocky Road ice cream. Dean loved Rocky Road ice cream. And he, when he wanted it, would always be like, you're pregnant. Aren't you craving Rocky Road ice cream? And she'd be like, well, I guess I am. And then it turns out she wasn't. He was.
No, I mean, I think she was, but I think it was the power of suggestion.
Sure, whatever. Dean was eating a lot of Rocky Road ice cream too.
Both her husband and her gay husband, Memoir, both gained a lot of weight with Tori's pregnancies. All of them. She just has a lot of people in her life who are like deep empaths and sympathetic to her. Some important things that I would like to pick up from this chapter once again, what was the point? I know we just like broke it down again, but what were we even talking about? Oh, her body during pregnancy and how the second time she felt more confident in a bikini and did this bikini photo shoot. With Liam, I wasn't prepared for losing sight of my lower region. Nobody tells you that's going to happen. I say, Dean, how's it looking down here? Do I need to shave? But of course I couldn't shave. So Dean had to shave me. He'd hold up a mirror and say, see, how'd I do? Or he'd take a picture with his BlackBerry to show me. I would be so nervous having someone else shave me for the first time in such a vulnerable area and time in my life. I also want to talk about how this book came out in 2009. And it's so funny to watch her just be able to be like, it's so important to be skinny and hot. So she has this whole section in this chapter about how obsessed she was with not getting stretch marks and all the creams. And then she looked into it and turns out they don't even do anything. But then she was like, what if they do something just in case? So she was creaming herself all the time. Here's a line. Being seen with triple chins on national television, no problem. Permanent stretch marks, unacceptable. I think in this day and age, it's kind of unacceptable to call stretch marks unacceptable because they are quite literally a natural part of the human experience of having a child.
And the human experience of like going from child to adult. people stretch because when you're born, you're very little. And when you're an adult, you're like bigger.
Often, hopefully. If you're lucky. If you're lucky, you haven't gotten only smaller. I also want to say it's so funny. So she keeps being like, how Hollywood is it that I'm friends with Chelsea Handler from when she read for my TV show? Also, how Hollywood is it that I thought we were friends and it turned out we weren't? And how Hollywood is it that now we're not friends because she talks mean about me on her TV show? And I'm like, Tori,
what are you talking about?
I've never seen somebody be such like an insider's outsider.
That's why I love her so much. She's sitting here being like, okay, you idiots won't understand this, but in Hollywood, there's this little thing called Chelsea Lately. You fucking freako pores in the middle of the country won't understand this, but in Hollywood, we have a little something called department stores, and you can go there for clothes.
Just the way that she's like, I can't relate to normal moms because I'm famous, but I can't relate to famous moms because I'm insecure, but I can't relate to non-moms, but I also can't relate to you, but I also can't even relate to myself. And my husband, Dean, don't even ask us to relate to one another.
He's out to lunch with my son, who prefers him to me. Okay, so she finds out from her voodoo priestess that she's going to have more kids.
Mama Lola. You probably remember from when she like had to kill a chicken in her backyard and then she made her assistant bury her underwear.
And you might remember her from when she had to kill another chicken, but she didn't want to. So she tried to hire an actor chicken to act like a sacrificial chicken.
You guys remember? Anyway, she said that she's going to have 4 kids and she goes, I'd love to have a girl. And Mama Lola says, oh, what would you do if it was all boys?
And then it turns out she is actually having a girl and she's like, uh-oh, strike on Mama Lola. Maybe I shouldn't have killed that chicken.
And they've like convinced themselves that they absolutely cannot have a girl. So when the doctor keeps saying, no, it's a girl, they're like, you don't know anything. Are you sure that's not just a super little penis? And they're like, no, that's her labia. And they're like, it looks like a penis to us. And I'm like, okay. Don't say that about your daughter's labia. That feels mean. You're like, this fetus, huge schnoz. And this bitch,
giant labia.
Huge vagina. Fattest vagina I've ever seen in utero. Dick sized.
I have to leave. What if we just ended the podcast forever right now?
These are people in the world, and I wish it wasn't true, but I've been forced to read what their mother is saying about them, and it's mean. Anyway, so she starts to get scared because she's like, wait, what if I'm not a good mom? What if I'm even more disastrous than my mom had been when I was a girl? What if all my best hopes and intentions backfire? Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
And then she gets into her mom and she's like, listen, I think the problem with me and my mom was that my dad put us in competition with one another when I was born, and all the attention he gave her, he started giving me.
And then for the rest of her life, she was unhappy and she blamed me.
And then she says, after my father passed away, she'd say things like, I never had friends. Your father wouldn't let me. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty bad. Weren't they like 20 years apart or something?
Yeah. Both elder spellings seem horrible. But to sit here and be like, will I hate my daughter?
Of all the things that she can talk about, and remember, this is the woman who said, you'll be pretty when you get a nose job. She didn't let Tori see her dad for 9 months and then the dad died. I forgot the story that she uses to illuminate how bad their relationship was.
It was because she and her mom, to bond, started collecting Beanie Babies.
I don't even think to bond. I think just like parallel. They had similar interests in collecting rare Beanie Babies.
And then it became this like intense competition between them where the mom would like belittle Tori's Beanie Baby collection.
My mother was doing the same thing. She'd send me an email saying, so I was just wondering whether you got Slytherin yet. I'd say no. And she'd respond, oh, I just got mine. I won it on eBay. I'd go online and see that Slither the Snake was going for $2,500. Some of the Beanie Babies I found were only released in small stores in certain areas. Once I found the coveted Princess the Bear, a special release for Diana of Wales Memorial Fund at a small store in New York where no one thought to check. When I wrote to tell her the big news, my mother responded, oh, that's great. I have 5.
I guess that's the thing is I'm like, Tori, the fact that you can't like parse out these stories, I'm very worried for your relationship.
So then she's like, I keep telling Dean, whatever you do, don't turn me against my daughter. Which again, I'm like, you got to take the power back, Tori. You got to say nobody has the power to turn me against my own daughter. And she's like, what happens if I become somebody I can't control? And I'm like, Tori, you are not in control.
So she gets very anxious because Nanny was her primary caregiver and the person she loved most in the world. So she's like, I don't want to even have a nanny, but it also turns out we kind of need a nanny. So she writes like a list of rules for herself for parenting.
And they are the Madame Alexander rule. Getting your daughter a present and telling her she can't touch it is worse than not getting her anything.
So she's like, you got to get your kids toys that are fun.
The Bonwit teller rule is that I'm not going to dress my daughter in clothes she doesn't want to wear. And also, if she wants her own haircut, she can get that.
Always be there at night, even if there are nannies. You always had to be there if they're sick or scared.
The Ed McMahon rule, she's allowed to invite whoever she wants to her wedding. If you give your daughter a gift, it shouldn't come with
strings attached.
I guess she wasn't allowed to have sleepovers at other kids' houses. If I ever buy a residence for her, I won't make her pay rent.
She'll never communicate with her daughter through a money manager.
I won't offer to host a post-wedding brunch or any other party for that matter and then pull funding a week before.
If my daughter ever writes a tell-all book about me, I promise to take it as constructive criticism. Promise?
And then things she agrees with is no summer camp. She's not allowed to hook up with people that work at the home.
Especially when they're overage and the kid is underage.
They're allowed to watch her from a young age, and she might secretly hide beautiful shellfish for her to find on the beach, just like my mom did for me. Also, big birthday parties.
Okay, so she had over-the-top parties growing up because her parents were extremely over-the-top people. So one of her big dreams is to raise her kids normal. And so she wants to have a normal first birthday party for Liam. And at this point, she is 7 months pregnant with Stella. So she wants to have this really like chill-ass birthday party. But instead, she hires like a bounce house and all of
these... 2
different
monkeys.
2 live monkeys.
A train that like goes around the entire periphery that you can ride in.
And a giant monkey-shaped birthday cake.
And then she also is like, I had multiple food carts set up.
And it turns out Liam didn't like that.
All he really wanted to do was eat one banana that they had actually just strung up for decoration.
What I learned from Liam's party, I would have had an amazing time if it had been a smaller party. Yeah, but you learned that from your own parties when you said, I just want to grow up and have normal parties.
She has this friend, Jenny, and she's like, thank God I have Jenny because she tells me everything I'm feeling is normal. And I'm like, you have got to get away from Jenny.
I think Jenny is a nightmare.
I know it can be hard reconciling your fantasies of who your children will be with who they are. My friend Jenny, who lets her 3-year-old daughter Delilah dress herself, says sometimes it's torture to see the adorable dresses hanging ignored in the closet. One time we met at a restaurant and Delilah was wearing a halter dress that was probably designed to be worn with a t-shirt underneath. Her little nipples were showing above the top of her dress. She was totally happy and comfortable. But what seemed to be rankling Jenny most were Delilah's shoes. I mean, would you ever wear those shoes with that dress? She said it was really offending her sense of style. Just you wait. It'll happen to you too. And when it does, it's heartbreaking. It's so funny to be like, I'll be miserable when my 3-year-old exhibits any kind of personal choice, but I'll let them do it against my best wishes.
They won't pick up on that. That's for sure.
She then gets in trouble when it airs on Tori and Dean, and Peeta's like, you really shouldn't have
had live monkeys there.
And she's like, they don't understand that these are trained monkeys that do acting professionally. And actually, it was an appearance fee.
Her lifelong dream was to have a cute, normal life. So she buys the cutest suburban house on a quiet street in Westwood, Los Angeles, which is near Beverly Hills and Brentwood, which are very celebrity glam vibes. And Westwood is a little bit chiller, but it's still between Beverly Hills and Santa Monica. So it's still prime Hollywood. It's still prime LA. Like, it's a very good location for industry people. It's not random. She didn't move out of town. Unfortunately, being famous makes everything impossible.
For some reason, she goes on and on about how she can't be a stay-at-home mom because she has to work so much, and we totally understand. She keeps telling us, I'm constantly working. I work 7 days a week. It's not just the TV show. I have 50 million different projects and obligations. My jewelry line, my children's clothing line, meeting about a new website, talk show appearances, building Deans in my production company, developing new ideas for TV and movies, writing books. For better or worse, I have the kind of fame where my name is a brand. I know it sounds weird, but people treat Tori Spelling like a business.
What?
And she's like, I have so many business ideas. Like, what about a French fry company?
So she like doesn't really have time to live like the standard stay-at-home suburban mom life, but she wants to work on getting herself into that world. So she buys this house.
We found a house on Leave It to Beaver Avenue. Let's call it Beaver Avenue in a part of LA called Westwood. The neighborhood was flat, with mostly 2 and 3 bedroom houses with nice but not huge plots of lands. Everybody's so nice. They moved to this neighborhood. The people who sold us the house told us it was an exceptional neighborhood. Everybody's so friendly. They have a July 4th block party. They have a Halloween party.
What could go wrong?
I was on my way to a minivan and proud of it, but life doesn't always go according to plan. And for all my fantasies, I was no June Cleaver. What was the point of this chapter? The whole chapter was to tell us that she wants to live in a cute neighborhood for her kids because she's a working mother.
And then she gets a house in a cute neighborhood.
You don't even have to be a working mother to say you want a nice neighborhood for your kid. Like, You don't actually have to explain to us why you wanted to live in a cute house in a cute neighborhood.
There are so many times in this book where she's like, you don't understand. Having neighbors was so important to me because I grew up in a house where
my only neighbors were the help.
And we had such a long driveway.
Our driveway was so long, kids wouldn't even come to get Halloween. And that's before we moved to the big house. I really cannot believe that in its entirety, this was a chapter about how she wanted to move to the suburbs. So she did. But also she's a business.
Totally.
Did you know a business could be in the suburbs? Of course you did in this country. A business
she's not
is a person.
Business woman. She's a business woman.
Let her handle her business, woman.
So now being a mom is actually really scary because you're constantly anxious about your kid.
She has fears like a sniper would open fire on her in the parking lot. The baby would kick a hole in her uterus. A shampoo bottle would get upset if it was facing the opposite way from all the other hair care products. And this is because she has a daughter. She's like, listen, I was a really good mom to my son, but raising a daughter is so different that it actually made me so insane. And I'm like, well, that's the problem. She's like, am I treating Stella differently enough to be a good mother to a daughter? And I'm like, I think
you've answered your own question and the answer is no.
She's like, the way I am with her is so different than the way I am with him. Is that going to be good enough? That's worse.
That's worse. And so she also talks about one time where Liam actually did have a health scare. He had a seizure and turned blue. And then it turns out he was fine.
I guess little babies, if they have a high fever, oftentimes it'll like force them to go into a seizure. And then the seizure is so exhausting on their little bodies that they like conk out for a few minutes. So they seem unresponsive, but really they're just snoozing because they worked hard by shaking that little body. But the problem is she was 7 months pregnant. She was technically on bed rest. She could not lift the baby out of the crib. She was there with her nanny. Dean was out getting tattoos.
Yeah, with Mayron for television.
They didn't even air that part.
So then she's freaking out after this situation with Liam that she'll like die during childbirth. All of her fears reignite.
I forgot this chapter is called People Randomly Die. I thought this chapter was going to be at like the people in her life who have just like randomly died.
No, it's just about the fact that she thinks someone could randomly die.
And she becomes really anxious about it.
And then she says that actually having irrational fears is really good because she's used to moving forward despite having morbid fantasies and she's accepted her fate. She moves through life just acknowledging that she could drop dead at any second. And that's better.
And she's scared of everything. She knows and is friends with her doctors, but she's like, what if they're giving me a C-section to steal my organs, just like in that Josh Duhamel movie? And I'm like, the idea that Josh Duhamel was in a movie that had an impact on anybody on this planet, news to me.
Which one is
I can't
Josh
imagine
Duhamel?
watching Josh Fergie's ex.
I know, but doesn't he have a dad that's a big deal or no? Is he a Nepo baby? Are there two Duhamels or no?
Are you talking about the actor or the character who stole all the organs?
Either.
They're all Nepo babies. In a way, living with my irrational fears has prepared me for childbirth and motherhood. This fear of mine wasn't the fault of Mommywood. Actually, I guess it was the fault of Hollywood for teaching you that organs are always up for grabs. It's just who I was, and I'd have to protect my kids from the same mindset as best I could.
Good luck.
So then, you'll never believe it, but her daughter is due to have a cesarean planned for the same day as her beloved other daughter, Mimi.
The pug.
Mimi loves clothes. People are always like, it's so fucked up of you to dress that dog up. And she's like, Mimi loves wearing clothes. She like thought that all of Stella's little pink outfits were for her and she was pissed.
So she has Stella on Mimi's birthday.
She talks about having this planned C-section and being like, the epidural took, Dean came to my side, and then not much later, I heard my daughter's first cry. It was the best feeling imaginable. When I heard Stella's little wail, I immediately thought, I can't wait to get pregnant again after all my fear and anguish. I really think she has like a Munchausen's by proxy of child pregnancy.
Yeah.
The way that she is like trying to always be pregnant, I feel like for her, it's weird because she has never once been in a good place in her life.
No.
So then she like immediately is so much more nervous with Stella than she was with Liam.
And she also has to go back to work immediately.
But she goes, with Liam, I felt pure happiness. With Stella, I felt underlying fear and worry that was heavy. Was it because she was a girl? Boys can take care of themselves, but girls are a whole new set of worries.
They are both babies. Newborn babies.
I always reflect on that feeling and how my response to the children was different literally at birth.
So she has to go back to work immediately after having Stella because they're in the middle of shooting another season of Tori and Dean in Love.
And they go home and they bring Stella home and Mimi meets Stella. She was flaunting a beautiful pink cashmere sweater that someone had sent for Stella. I shrugged. We'll wash it. She was so happy and stylish. That was Mimi. She was wearing Stella's outfit. Again, like what are any of these chapters?
Who put Mimi in baby clothes? Mimi did not rummage through the closet and dress herself.
The crazy thing is Mimi has an armoire full of her own outfits. You wouldn't go, oh, here's Mimi's cashmere sweater hanging in the baby's closet. You would say Mimi's clothes are in Mimi's closet.
They were at the hospital. Who's dressing Mimi? Mimi, I love your outfit. Oh, I just threw this on.
Oh, I found it in that box. I thought it was a donation pile, all wrapped up nicely for the thrift store.
Oh, the baby's armoire? Oh, that's what that was.
She thinks she has a new dog bed with just really high walls. It's a crib. Mimi, that's a crib. I'm kidding. I'm sure Mimi, like every other animal that Tori Spelling has ever come across, lives in the bed with her and Dean. How are these people fucking enough to have so many kids?
She says they're fucking every day.
On top of barnyard animals?
Yeah.
Sickos. Let Mimi rest.
Can you imagine if Bug could dress herself?
Could you imagine if you were always having sex next to Bug, who was actively pissing and shitting?
Okay, so she moves to her new neighborhood, her June Cleaver perfect house. And you'll never believe this, but the neighbors are difficult because in a very closed off, cutie patootie neighborhood that is known for its like special little block parties, it turns out there is like a very aggressive and obsessive HOA.
So I get it that a paparazzi hounded reality star might not be the good family neighborhood dream neighbor. She's probably got too many cars, too much trash, reality show cameramen coming and going at all hours of the night.
Does she have one car?
Yes, they live in it. Each of her 5 children have their own cars, including the baby, and that is their homes.
Too much trash.
Also, they do have reality show cameramen coming and going at all hours. And a stalker or two on top of it. Also, she's probably a pretentious snob who doesn't give a crap about her neighbors. Leaves shopping bags in her wake and would be the last person in the world to say, pick up your newspaper if you were out of town. That's what she's assuming they're thinking about her. Again, she lives in Los Angeles where a lot of people are famous.
A lot of people are famous and a lot of people work with famous people. So a lot of people casually know many famous people.
I also have to say, yet again, they were right to be suspicious because she's constantly leaving poop-covered things around.
I'm sorry, if you asked her to pick up your newspaper, the way that she would spiral, the way she'd say, oh, well, they're asking anyone else to pick up their newspaper. What, they think I'm just some random stay-at-home mom? I'm just a woman who was famous when I was a kid. My dad's so rich. My husband's an actor / motorcycle enthusiast. And so I just have all the time in the world to waltz over to your house and take care of your newspapers. Well, guess what? Not everyone can be collaging 24/7.
What if the Cat in the Hat was a reality star with anxiety? That's Tori Spelling. You know how you asked your Cat in the Hat friend to watch your kids and it became a fucking scene?
Can you imagine her forgetting to pick up the newspaper and then it gets stolen and like 2 days later she's driving all around town being like, for the love of God, who has 2 days ago's newspaper?
She lights the house on fire to try to smoke out the thief in the home.
I did remember to bring in your newspaper, but unfortunately someone burnt your house down.
From the start, the neighbors were a little skeptical about me and Dean.
They're worried that there's a painter painting the house.
So they send an email being like, this is a close-knit community. We understand that you have security issues, but a huge 6-foot wall is not only illegal, it will take away from the charm of the neighborhood.
Oh, they were thinking about putting in a fence.
Well, that's what she says. So somehow something got misconstrued where they're like, we were going to put a fence in for our own safety. And then we got this email about not putting up a huge wall. And I was like, who, me?
She's like, I wasn't going to put up a wall.
So then Dean's like, I'm going to yell at those people. And she's like, you can't. I want them to like us so badly, but not in a way where I'll do anything about it.
Our celebrity brought with it issues and considerations that had nothing to do with who we were. Was a normal relationship with neighbors possible for us? That whole internal monologue went through my head as I gave them a tour and told them that we'd all get to know one another. Maybe that's why I didn't come across well. I had a lot going on in my head. It's definitely why you didn't come across well. If you're so preoccupied, can you imagine if like an alien moved to your neighborhood and then you were trying to be like, oh, welcome to the neighborhood. And they were like, I hope you don't think I'm an alien. I hope you don't think I'm an alien. I hope you don't think I'm an alien. Yes. Happy to be here. See you later, bitch. Did that seem fun or will she know I'm an alien?
I showed them around the house, which still had stacks of boxes yet to be unpacked and piles of stuff everywhere. They were so pleasant and friendly. I was trying my best to be equally pleasant and friendly. Everyone was doing the right thing, but I could see that they felt weird. I felt weird too. We all felt uncomfortable. It should have been so nice, but something wasn't natural. What was going through their minds? Did they think we were normal or celebrity warped? Did they wish we hadn't moved in but still drop by anyway because that's what you do with your neighbors? Would they have felt equally uncomfortable if they were anyone else? Is it just part of meeting neighbors? Is it always a little awkward? Is it me? Is I making it awkward? I've never done this before.
You are literally making it horrible.
I'm sorry. You don't even have to be famous to be a coastal elite. This idea that she was going to show up in a Los Angeles neighborhood and be like the only over-the-top mom. Welcome to life, baby. Everything's insane.
Can you imagine? I'm waiting for her to like try to make her neighbors a pie and then just be like, never mind. It was for my face. I'll pie myself. She also talks a lot about designing this house and how she made this living room that was like the living room of her dreams, even though it had a TV in it, and living rooms shouldn't have TVs. And there was like a bar cart, even though kids might break the glasses.
She goes, Dean hates TVs, but my belief is every room should have a TV, including the bathroom. And I'm like, every room? Talk to your children. Dean and I compromised. I agreed not to have a TV in the bathroom, and I promised him the TV in the kitchen would be off during family dinners. And I reminded him that he liked the bedroom TV just fine when we were watching porn. I'm sorry. How do they hate each other this much and also be fucking every day?
How do they hate each other this much? And at this point, they're like 18 months into their marriage and 2 kids deep. I couldn't blame our neighbors for having doubts about celebrities next door, but they'd get to know us. We'd get to know them. And soon enough, we'd all be playing kickball in the palm tree lined streets. Can you imagine Tori playing kickball?
This is, again, such a funny chapter of her being like, we moved to the suburban neighborhood to try to make neighbors. Immediately, I could tell the neighbors thought I was weird. Nothing ever happened, but I know they think I was weird. I thought they were weird. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's weird to show up at a neighbor's house and say, howdy, neighbor. What are you, fucking June Cleaver? I'm June Cleaver. How can we both be June Cleaver? If you were to ask her at the end of each chapter, and what happened here, this one literally is like, I moved to a neighborhood and my neighbors came over once, and I thought about it a lot. Nothing happens ever.
So then Mimi passes away, which is very sad. And she feels like she didn't spend enough time with Mimi in her later years because she had a baby.
She died 3 days after Stella was born.
And she's like, I learned this lesson with Nanny when I regretted not spending enough time with Nanny before she died.
How crazy is it that she was raised calling her nanny, Nanny? And then even as an adult, never like thought to learn her name?
Yeah. And then she has the same regret with her dad.
I wish you would call me podcaster.
I'm going to. So then she has this regret with Nanny, not spending enough time with her before she died. Then her dad dies and she hadn't seen him for 9 months. And she like blames her mom for keeping her out. But she's like, I could have stood up to my mom. I learned my lesson. I should spend more time with people I love. And then Mimi dies after she doesn't spend a lot of time with Mimi. And she's like, okay, now I learned my lesson.
Mimi was a diva. She loved getting dressed. The only time she didn't like wearing clothes was this one time on Halloween when she like screamed at Mimi in tears because how's she going to bring Mimi to set without a costume? It was Halloween. That's what she's like, that's the only time I ever yelled at Mimi and I felt so guilty. And also she pissed everywhere. At work, I sat in the makeup chair tormented by what I had done. She was a dog. I had no business forcing her to wear clothes and I had yelled at her. I never yelled at Mimi. As they attempted to fix my mascara, I wailed, I'm a bad mom. I'm a bad mom.
Well, I didn't say it.
She was literally in hysterics. The makeup people finally gave up and sent me to get my hair done. They'd try again later. But she's like, hey, Mimi taught me patience. Now I'm much more patient like when Liam shits everywhere. And I'm like, maybe you should be more urgent about that. She goes, everybody loved Mimi. And then she threw a
wake
for Mimi and like invited everyone she could. And they had a toast. There was goodbye gifts. And then they did a monarch ceremony where everybody had a box and released butterflies into the world.
Did she not learn a lesson from the PETA email from before?
And then she called this famous pet psychic. She's like, I can't believe after she had done my psychic reading with Mimi earlier in her life, she didn't come to the wake, but she found a second as good one. She was more a seancer who could speak to the dead, pet or human. So she did find out that Stella and Mimi had made an agreement that Mimi would die when Stella was born, that it was her time.
So then Stella could watch over Tori because that's what kids are for. So Tori feels very stressed to lose the baby weight because...
Can I say, and I hate to say this about a woman, but being married to her seems like a fucking nightmare.
Oh, yeah. I think knowing her seems like a fucking nightmare.
Imagine you have this fucking wife. She has this entire team of, as she calls them, the gays, who like wait on her hand and foot. She has the worst friend named Jenny being like, oh yeah, babies are ugly, but you can fix that. If you just hold them in a certain way, you can shape their skull better. And then she's also like running around trying to get herself pregnant. She's planning elaborate memorial services for her dog. Oh my God, she was late to her own C-section because she was throwing Mimi a birthday party. And then she's like throwing this absurd birthday party for her 1-year-old. She's running around all the time being like, I'm so busy. I'm so insane. None of the neighbors like us because in my head, I made up this problem. And then she's taking you to therapy because she's mad that you're overstepping your boundaries as a father because you keep tending to the children. And she's like, you don't even give me a chance just because I'm busy throwing elaborate birthday parties for our dog.
I was going to help the baby stop crying once I was done with the dog outfit.
She is a nightmare. And then she's like, does everyone think I'm crazy?
You have to tell me. It's like if you're a cop, you have to tell me the truth. Do you think I'm crazy?
It's because I'm famous, right? Well, unfortunately, this fame that has led me to the world's worst life is the only life I know.
Why are you looking at me like that? This isn't my blood. It's chicken's blood from a ritual. Everyone thinks I'm some kooky lady who's covered in my own blood.
But I'm covered in chicken blood and baby shit because I'm such a down-to-earth mom. Would a highfalutin mom leave shit in her car for days? Because she was too insecure to be seen changing a diaper because she didn't know how, really?
Okay, so another thing she keeps saying in this book is that as a celebrity, it's actually 90% her being just like everybody else. But the thing is, the only thing that is normal about her is the part of her that is, I guess there's no normal part of her, but like there are like two celebrity adjacent things that I'm like, oh yeah, that would be nerve-wracking as a famous person. Everything that she thinks I'm like, no one acts like this. No one is like this. And it's not because you're famous. It's because you're a nut. She's very stressed about baby weight because Hollywood puts a lot of pressure on women to lose weight immediately. And she, with both children, had an instance where someone would come up to her after she had given birth and been like, so when's the baby due? And this is inappropriate.
She had a stranger at the grocery store grab her body and be like, when's the baby due? And then be like, oh, there's no baby in there. And I'm like, okay. You shouldn't be poking and prodding like that.
You should not be poking and prodding like that. You should not be grabbing women's bodies at all, but also to like see a woman just like wearing a flowy dress and be like, that belly gotta be a baby because this is Hollywood and people don't look like that.
And then they go to La Scala and somebody's like, we can't sit next to that pregnant woman. I want to smoke cigarettes.
It also sounds hard because she is famous and then having babies at the same time as other famous people who are then in magazines like proving how fast they lost baby weight.
She's like, Jessica Alba's baby was born right before Stella, and 2 weeks later she was in a bikini in a magazine, and Nicole Kidman and Brooke Burke.
I was apologetic about my belly, like it was a public offense. How insane is that? I wanted to say I was sorry for apologizing, but that's a loop I'm always trying to avoid.
And so someone comes up to her and goes, how did you lose all your baby weight? And I said, no, look, I still have a baby and Stella's 4 months old. She said, are you kidding? It's been 7 years and I'm still trying to lose my baby weight. You look great.
Magazines are different. Reality shows and magazines are supposed to capture reality, but judging is a part of what magazine readers do. If I see a reality star in a magazine compared to someone else wearing the exact same dress, I would definitely judge who wore it better. If I'm wearing a dress and I'm standing next to Paris Hilton in the same dress, who do you think wins? I weigh 30 pounds more than she does. Of course she wears it better. Tori, shut up. She's literally like, I don't know, it's rude that people judge my body, but what are they supposed to do?
I have a body.
What are they going to not judge it?
It is so crazy thinking that back in the day, you could be like, I'm 30 pounds heavier. Of course I look like shit.
Oh my God.
It's really, I feel like you don't see it anymore.
Caring about it means I try to control it. If only moms were judging, then I might have a fighting chance. That's the thing is like, because people are judging, she's like, well, that means I have to play into it.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, people are going to judge no matter what, all I can do is live my life. She's like, people are going to judge no matter what. And that's why I must win.
Tori, you've never won, not once.
Okay. This next chapter is my favorite one.
I don't really know how to tell you guys what's about to happen in this chapter. And I think it's because nothing.
Say the title.
My first and last block party.
So she was so excited for this beaver neighborhood with block parties.
We were new to the neighborhood. I wanted to make a good impression. The block party was my chance to show my neighbors that we were normal, that we and our children fit in here. I want to do everything perfect to the letter.
I hoped to leave the celebrity spotlight and all my self-consciousness behind.
Oh boy. Is this going to be the most failure-y block party of all? If that is what you're out to do.
Okay, so what happens is there's like a very official planning committee for this block party. She signs up for the planning committee. She is assigned the egg toss.
Specifically, it says Dean McDermott would host the Beaver Block Party triennial egg toss at 2:15.
So she's nervous about organizing the egg toss because she doesn't know what kind of eggs to get, if she should get the kind with extra omega-3s, if she should get cage-free.
They're like, no, we have eggs. And she's like, okay, well, the prizes, what kind of prizes should I get? And they're like, no, we have prizes. So she's like, so what is my job? And they're like, on the street in front of your lawn, that's where the people will go to the eggs.
And then she writes this, possibly my favorite line in the whole book. I guess that's what happens when you invite a natural-born party planner to a highly organized event and tell her she doesn't have to do anything. It's like bringing a diabetic to an ice cream shop. It's just plain cruel. Okay, I want to break it down. A natural-born party planner. The woman who had a 1-year-old birthday party that her son despised because he was 1.
The woman who couldn't even get the preeminent pet psychic to her own goddamn dog's wake. I mean, I'm sorry, but Candy Spelling was getting the best of the best. You were going to have contact with the other side.
Who's going to tell her that diabetics can eat ice cream?
Not the ones on Ozempic, and she's on Ozempic, so she knows.
It's just plain cruel. Okay, go ahead.
So as the day approached, the preparations escalated. A week before the event, the distribution committee distributed decorations for each house. So she has everything. She's going to make a red velvet cake for the dessert potluck table. Morning of July 4th, big day. She springs out of bed. She's making the cake. She's decorating their yard. She's trying to put the crepe paper around their trees, but all she had was Scotch tape, and so it doesn't stay, which I'm like, okay, well, I think like a natural-born party planner would know that Scotch tape doesn't stick to bark. I would have guessed it.
I would have guessed it.
So she's making her famous red velvet cake and doing an American flag on it with blueberries, perfectly on theme. When she rereads the email, and what does she see?
All of the desserts have to be in single serving portions.
I panicked.
She's freaking out. I knew people were looking for us to do things wrong. I had to follow the instructions perfectly or I would never be accepted.
So she, in tears, cuts up her cake. It's all mucked up looking now. The American flag doesn't even make sense. Some of the white of the icing is in the red of the cake and it's looking pink, not red, white, and blue. She's hysterical. She's upset.
So then she goes outside, right, to get ready for the parade, the single street parade, a parade that goes from one end of Beaver Lane to the other end of Beaver Lane. And everyone is setting up lawn chairs. And she goes, lawn chairs?
What are we going to be standing like idiots? She invited her friends to this block party and she doesn't have a chair for every bottom. She's freaking out. She's calling her friends and going, buy chairs, buy chairs.
One of her friends sends back the snarkiest message, Jenny, that bitch. And she's like, why do I need lawn chairs? And she goes, in the time it took you to send this message, you could have gone to Target and bought lawn chairs.
At 10 in the morning, the parade began. All the kids and dogs were dressed in matching red, white, and blue Beaver Avenue 4th of July t-shirts. It's a great day. Everyone's having fun. But then something horrible happens. It is 2:00 and Dean has a headache. So he goes home to lay down. But
the act house is at 2:15 and Dean McDermott is
And so she's like, well, how are they going to know what to do if you're not here hosting? And he's like, you can't host it. And she goes, it says Dean. It says Dean on the flyer.
What are they going to think? You're just a famous pish posh asshole, can't even bear to show up for his own egg toss?
So she gets him down. It doesn't matter. Sickness or in health, he will be the host of the egg toss.
But you'll never believe what happens.
Right at 2:15 on the dot, all systems were go. We made it. I breathed a sigh of relief. Just as the egg toss contestants arrived, an announcement came through the megaphone. The keeper of the megaphone was Wally, the fence monitoring neighbor who had turned nice when I hugged him. Suddenly, our now nice neighbor announced, the fire department. We all looked up the block. Indeed, 2 big red fire trucks were at that moment rounding the corner. Like soldiers, the crowd turned away from our house as one unit and ran towards the gleaming fire engines.
The egg toss was officially postponed. You know, in a cartoon, when like a character gets overwhelmed and like walks too fast and like whops their head into something hard and then like passes out, and then they wake up after the event is over and they go, what happened? Did I miss it? If only Tori had that kind of luck.
So then the last sentence is, the egg toss was officially postponed. Per the block party potluck table instructional email, the deadline for delivery of all desserts pre-cut was 6 p.m. So she gets there and guess what? Nobody's really manning the table, so nobody even sees her drop off this dessert. So she keeps like walking in circles waiting for somebody to see that she's dropping off a dessert and nobody sees it. I was aghast. My cake. I'd even bought a plastic silver tray for it. It should have been the shining star. I had no choice but to submit my cake as it was. I looked around, but there was nobody to whom I could present it. No reception committee. Even worse, as I looked around, I realized that there was nobody on the entire street. Nobody was there to see that she was dropping off a cake.
I needed these people to know how much I'd tried, how much I'd worked on this cake and fretted over the rules, how much I'd done everything I possibly could to fit in, to participate, to be a good neighbor. This is horrible neighborship. Imagine being like, hello, I'm a good neighbor. In order to be a good neighbor, I'm going to need you to watch me right now to show you how good of a neighbor I am.
A couple of hours later, when it was all over and all the friends left and the cleanup committee was efficiently clearing the block of any sign of the festivities, I took the stock of the day. Cut or uncut, my cake had been eaten. Fire department notwithstanding, the delayed egg toss had been a success. Were my expectations too high?
Yes.
And I wanted something from the block party that it could possibly give me?
Yes.
If trying hard and following all the rules didn't make me fit in, what would? Why are you not fit in? Like, what is unfit about you?
A lot.
Was I trying too hard? Or did I have to have grown up on this block to feel comfortable here?
What the fuck is wrong with her?
I looked down at Beaver Avenue block party beer cozy inside. So this was neighborhood life. It was stressful.
It doesn't have to be.
Nothing happened. So the stress of the day was that you had to cut up your cake and then the egg toss was delayed. But other than that, what?
I literally don't know.
Imagine looking at this day and going, this was such a failure that I will not come back.
She was like, this is the last block party I'm ever going to do. I had to show up at an egg toss. I had to cut a cake. That it turns out you didn't even have to make it. Turns out not that many people brought desserts. There could have been no cake.
I have to tell you something. The very first sentence of the next chapter, July 4th was a bust, but there was still hope.
No, there wasn't.
There was no hope because it wasn't a bust. And that's what makes you hopeless, Tori.
So Halloween was a disaster. What happened was she absolutely fretted over having good costumes for her family because she loves like store-bought plastic costumes because she was never allowed to have one growing up because her mom would always have the costume designer from her dad's shows make her like elaborate custom costumes.
So to her, love is like a cheap plastic costume. But then this kid across the street has like a homemade costume that his grandma put together. And she's like, I guess that seems like love to some, not to me. I think it's bitchy to make your kid a fucking costume.
Yeah. So then she puts Liam in a bumblebee outfit and she has a bumblebee outfit. And then she puts Stella in a ladybug outfit.
Can I say something? Liam's outfit, which she says for a couple times, came from Pottery Barn.
What does Pottery Barn sell costumes?
Is Pottery Barn like couches, coffee tables, chaise, and a bumblebee for children?
I guess.
Anyway, she shows up to the first party and nobody else is wearing a costume and she's furious.
Okay, and she's not just wearing a adult bumblebee costume. She's wearing like an adult bumblebee slut costume that she has layered with a turtleneck and leggings and leg warmers so that it's not slutty.
Also, she has fake eyelashes. Also, she has a wig. Also, she has a honeybee purse. Also, she has yellow and black striped heels.
Yeah, she looks amazing. She's so excited. She's also wearing gold shimmer eyeshadow. No one else is wearing a costume and she is furious. Couldn't they stick something on? A witch's hat, cat ears? Why didn't they dress up? It was just sad. How about a little effort, people? As the party went on, my disappointment in these other parents gradually turned into mild self-consciousness, then full-fledged embarrassment.
Then a few moms asked, when did you have your daughter? And I started worrying that in addition to being overdone, the costume was also too tight.
No, they're asking how old is she? You're holding a baby.
This is such a reasonable question to ask somebody like, oh, when was your daughter born? That is a considerate question. To say, oh, you have a child, how old is not.
You still look pregnant. Is that baby born yet?
Imagine if every time someone said, how old's your child? What they meant is you look fat to me. That's crazy.
That baby you're holding, is it even born? Because it looks still inside of you because you're fat.
And then she gets really self-conscious because she's like, well, Stella wanted her costume off because Stella, again, is a few months old. And then she's like, and then I looked around and I noticed all of the children looked really hot in their costumes, like sexy. They had studly outfits and she's insecure that she put her 18-month-old son Liam in a baby outfit. She goes, this guy is David Beckham. He had fake tattoos, hip soccer shorts, and a shirt that said, I love Victoria. Our host, Ollie, was a golfer. My little Pottery Barn bee was wearing
Pottery Barn bee?
Something for bitches. She goes, should I have given him something more studly? When does he start dressing like a boy? She goes, I could tell that he felt really insecure because he started wanting to take his outfit off. I don't think an 18-month-old baby is actually like aware of the toxic masculinity in the room.
No, I think maybe he just like likes taking his pants off and running around.
Imagine being like, oh my God, he's a year and a half and he thinks he looks gay. Does my son look gay?
Oh my God. So then she goes back home for trick-or-treating.
She's hosting a party for her other friends. She goes, the dining room was decorated with all sorts of spooky paraphernalia. I made a pumpkin full of chili and evil eggs. Get it? Instead of deviled eggs?
No.
Okay, I have to tell you something, Tori. The devil is also spooky. Devil was already a spooky word.
So then they go trick-or-treating and her friends show up and they're wearing costumes, especially Jenny. Jenny's wearing a princess costume and it's awesome.
Dean said, you looked hot. Jenny said, Target, $5. I said, settle down, Dean.
$5 for a full-on Cinderella outfit? and a baby bee costume from Pottery Barn.
She goes, Jenny's husband, Norm, was dressed as a surgeon. My faith in humanity was restored. It's so funny to be like, am I good enough for the neighbors? The neighbors are fucking pieces of shit who've destroyed my faith in humanity.
But my friends, my $5 princess friend and her surgeon husband, that's love.
So first, the problem is that she's like, I want to be like the house on the trick-or-treating block. So she starts telling the kids, take as much candy as you want, not realizing that that would mean to a child, like, put your hands at the bottom and take half of every bag of candy. So they keep running out of candy and she's like embarrassed. And she's like, I kept sending Dean to the store to buy more until we ran out of candy again and again and again. And I was like, stop telling them to take unlimited amounts. This is a fixable problem. You make that mistake once and then you go, oh, I guess this is why you give one per kid.
Even two.
Imagine being like, there's no way to keep supply in check. I keep telling the children have unlimited candy.
And they're taking it.
And then something crazy happens.
A girl that she went to high school with,
who everybody hated. She goes on and on about how we all hated Lisa and nobody talked to her.
And then she shows up and she trick-or-treats and she's like, oh yeah, how are you? And she's like, wow, we're all just older.
Lisa goes, isn't it crazy? I have car seats now. And Tori goes, wow, I guess you're not the raging bitch I knew you to be in high school. Good thing you said first and last name. And talked about how much all of her high school friends hated her.
Oh, God. Tori, she reveals some real secret inside information about Hollywood. She says nothing is as simple as it looks in magazines.
So she's about to tell you about a photo you probably saw of her at the pool and let you know that behind the scenes, things were a bit cuckoo.
And also, unless, of course, you didn't see the photo. We'll try to find it and post it on Instagram, but no promises.
So basically, they went on a vacation and she asked if she could go on a vacation for free. And they said, yes, but would you do a photo shoot and an interview with People magazine about the resort? And she said, no, then I'll just pay. And I'm like, okay, well, then why'd you tell us any of that? And so she still went to that resort.
Yeah, and then the paparazzi followed her anyway.
And then once she got there, everybody tried to take a photo with her. And she's like, you don't understand. When people see me, they don't just like pretend to look. They get in my face and they stare right into my eyes because they're obsessed with seeing a celebrity. They cannot believe it.
Or they make their kids like stand in front of her and then they pretend to take a photo of their kid, but really they're taking a photo of Tori. So they were in this like fancy presidential suite, right? Mostly hanging out, keeping to themselves. And then they went to like the group pool where all the everybody's is. And Liam shit.
And it got out of the swim diaper and it got everywhere. And
she picked it up in her hands.
But then more was leaking. I forgot that on the way. So she drives out there by herself and Dina's going to meet her. And they pull over in West Covina, but she's like, can you even fucking believe that I'm here? And I'm like, I guess.
She's like, I'm driving a Range Rover in West Covina. A Range Rover.
Stella started screaming. When she started, Liam joined in. Worst singing duo ever. At first, I thought Stella was rightfully protesting my driving technique. But when I checked on her, I saw that she had a huge poop. Okay, I already in advance. Ashley is like cowering in fear. I want to apologize for what I'm about to say 6 times over, but I'm going to just read the paragraph.
No, I forgot about what this was.
A major poop. I'm talking poop up the puss. I swear that it was all the way up to her belly button. I know I always wanted to have a baby girl. I was beyond thrilled to have Stella, but one incontestable benefit to the boy baby is that there is no such thing as poop up the puss. Patsy, I said I would finish the paragraph. Patsy comforted Liam while I changed Stella's diaper in the front seat of the car.
There's a nanny there.
We'd been in West Covina parking lot for half an hour. I texted Dean, we're hiding from paparazzo in some random neighborhood and Stella has poop up the puss. Well, I used the standard texting abbreviations like PUTP. Stop talking about your infant daughter's vagina. I know that she has a labia the size of a penis. And I know that now that penis is covered in poop. But you must stop referring to your baby daughter's vagina as a pussy.
I can't believe that on this day, Stella is 16 years old and Tori is still talking about her inappropriately.
The photo that Tori posted on Instagram to celebrate her 16th birthday is simply just her butt. There's not a back of the head even. It's literally from the bottom of the shoulder blades to the top of the kneecaps, butt photo, mini skirt. Why'd she post that? She's 16.
Tori.
What is wrong with you, Tori?
She's like, I'm not like my mom.
I sexualize my daughter because I think she's quite hot.
So Liam gets sick of vacation and that's it. The desert was the beginning of something, showing her kids the world.
She says the sentence, I want to show my kids the world 19 times in the last 2 pages of this chapter. Is that true or is that false?
It's true. She said it as many times as she said,
oh my
poop
God.
Up the puss.
I forgot to say, during the scandal of Liam pooping in the kiddie pool, Dean took Stella to go swim in the regular pool, even though she was only 4 months old. And apparently the doctor had said to wait till she's 6 months. What was wrong with the pool? What was it going to do to her? Didn't they basically spend their first 9 months in the equivalent of a very small heated pool? It was all about fertility, wasn't it? It always was. The hormones in milk would bring early onset puberty. The wrong baby bottles would destroy their fertility. Probably at that very moment, the chlorine was making its way up her vagina and destroying my chances of ever having grandchildren.
Tori, you are a fucking freak of nature.
You are a literal sicko pervert. Shut the fuck up and get away from your kid's lower body.
What?
Why are you always talking about your child's vagina in a book? This is a baby. Imagine looking at your baby and being like, I bet you can't even have kids. I bet you're never going to deliver me my sweet, sweet grandbabies because your pussy's all fucked up.
I got a big nose boy and fucked up pussy girl.
They're babies. They're literally babies. I'm crying. I'm crying for the children. I can't believe she goes on to have 3 more.
No. Okay. So now it's her life as a stepmom because, as you remember, Dean already had a son.
The whole time we were in the desert, there was drama about my stepson Jack's 10th birthday party. A week before Jack's party, he decided that he didn't want me to come. What's crazy about her books, they really are like, well, what have you done in the last 2 months? And she's like, I'll tell you. And a lot of times, nothing. But that doesn't stop her from telling you the story.
No matter how much Dean and I talked about Jack, it was impossible for me to feel prepared. And I'm sure Jack felt the same way. So as you remember, the way Tori and Dean got together is they shot a film together, and then Dean came home from production and said, I'm leaving you, wife and child.
She says it's crazy that her and Jack don't get along because when they first met, they got along really well. When I first met and fell in love with Dean in Ottawa, before I even knew what would happen when we went home to LA or whether we'd find a way to be together, I started carrying around a picture of Jack. I thought of Jack as my new son.
No.
Not in a possessive or competitive way. I wasn't planning on being his mother. I was just gung-ho. At this point, she was the mistress. She was the married mistress of Dean. Could you imagine if your husband had an affair on a work trip and that godforsaken woman started carrying around a picture of your child?
She's like, I think Mary Jo talked shit about me to Jack. Of course Mary Jo talked shit about you to Jack.
So she's like, at first we got along really, really well. And then Mary Jo took Jack up to Vancouver for a couple years. And during that time, we didn't see him that much. But when they moved back to LA, I wanted to be careful here. I love Jack and I don't want to write anything that will ever hurt him. What I want to talk about is how in a family with children from different marriages, there are times when everyone has to shift gears. Can I tell you something? If you love Jack and don't want to write anything to hurt him,
don't write this book.
Don't write anything at all. Don't write anything at all. Don't be like, how do I talk about his bitch mom in a way that won't make him mad?
And then she also rehashes the story she told in her last book about how the first time she had a one-on-one lunch with Mary Jo, she brought a knife in case Mary Jo tried to kill her.
Yeah. And she's like, I don't know, apparently that story didn't go over well, but I was kidding. It's about how crazy I am. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really put anyone in a good light to say that you thought you had to defend yourself with a knife.
It also doesn't put you in a good light as a step-parent to be like, I had a loosey-goosey sharp kitchen knife flapping around my bag when I went into this woman's home as a guest.
She also is like, the hard thing about being a stepmom is that I don't know if I should raise Jack by my rules or her rules.
Her rules.
I think sometimes Dean's too lenient with Jack. Meanwhile, Dean says I'm quick to reinforce rules with Jack, but that Liam needs boundaries as well. When it comes down to it, I actually think the hardest part isn't even being a stepmom. It's caring for kids who are that far apart in age.
What is she talking about?
It is crazy that Dean is essentially saying like, you're really mean to Jack and really nice to your own kid.
And also stop wielding knives in the presence of others.
And she's like, it's so weird that Mary Jo doesn't like me because I really adhere to the rules of being a stepmom. I never say anything bad about Mary Jo in Jack's presence, but apparently Mary Jo says that I'm really ugly.
All I do is say that Mary Jo might kill me.
I had a feeling Mary Jo and I didn't read the same rule book. Or I'm pretty sure her rule book says something about it being very uncool to fall in love with another woman's husband.
So then she gets re-invited to Jack's birthday party and she's so excited to go, but she's nervous that Mary Jo's going to be a bitch. But it turns out Mary Jo wasn't even a problem. The problem was that Luke Perry is at this birthday party because his son is friends with Jack. And she's like, oh my God, my old co-star. It'll be so fun to see him. But Luke ignores her and is so cold and mean to her. And she's like, why would he be this mean to me? It makes no fucking sense. And she comes to the conclusion that in her previous book, she had told a story about Luke beating up her ex-boyfriend at a Christmas party. And Luke must be mad about that. And she's like, he was the hero of the story.
How crazy to be like, this man doesn't like that I talked about him in my first book. So let me talk about him again in my second book. Because I saw him for 20 minutes at one birthday party.
Seriously, at some point, I really have to learn to confront people because the mystery of that behavior will just eat at me. There's more to say about being a stepmother, but it's not my right to say more, not if I care about the people involved, and I do very much. That's the lesson I've learned the hard way from my last book. So the point of this chapter is to say,
look at all the people I'm not talking about.
In my last book, I talked shit about Mary Jo. I told a story about Luke Perry. Now in this book, I'm kind of talking shit about Mary Jo again because I'm saying that she's mean to me.
Even though to all appearances it was a normal dinner, I somehow felt inferior to Mary Jo. I have no idea why. She was so proper and mature. When I giggled, I felt like a silly schoolgirl. When we got our food, I looked down to make sure I had my utensils in the right order. I felt 12. It was nothing she did or said to me, and granted, it was an uncomfortable situation all around. For some reason, I just felt like I wasn't smart enough or cultured enough. Later, when I told Dean, he said, welcome to my world. I will say, Tori, you're like, anybody looking in or listening in would say nothing was going wrong, and she didn't do anything wrong, but I felt so bad. So that's pretty bad, huh?
And also her ex-husband said, yeah, when I was with her, I felt bad. She's like, anyway, the lesson I learned is don't talk about people if you hope to maintain a relationship with them.
I live a public life. When other people cross into that life, I have to weigh my rights to be public against their rights to be private. That's so funny to be like, listen, I understand that they have a right to be private, but at the end of the day, I'd rather make money.
So Tori is still stressed that Liam likes Dean more than her, so she starts taking him on solo outings.
Yeah, they go to a therapist, and therapist is like, this is so weird. I never hear the problem where the man is like, well, if I don't change the diaper right away and wait till Tori notices, what am I supposed to do? Just like let her kid get diaper rash? And she's like, interesting. I've never seen a woman act like a man like this before. So she's like, why don't you try helping out quicker, Tori, or hanging out with your children alone? So she takes her son
to Neiman Marcus. Or no, she takes Stella to Neiman Marcus.
And it's a really heavy car seat, and she trucks along and she figures it out. And she gets so excited that one day in the future, Stella will get to buy clothes just like her. And she's like so happy she's having a girl. And then on the way back to the car, she's carrying all her dresses and carrying the car seat, and everything is so heavy and she's quaking. And someone who works there goes, do you want me to help you? And she goes, no, why? Do I look like I need help? I'm fine. I turned away, but she knew I was just being stubborn. She said, I'm a mom. It's okay to ask for help. I knew that if Dean were alone with Stella, he'd never need an extra hand. Yeah, he is just physically stronger than you.
Also, you're stupid. You're probably not carrying it right.
I will say, why did she take a car seat on like a long-term outing? Why didn't she just bring a stroller?
Or one of those thingies where you strap a baby to your body.
I guess I also would have been like, yeah, this is not the right way to do it. So she does that. And besides that minor infraction of someone having to help her for a minute, it goes pretty well. So next up, she's got a birthday party from one of her nannies that she threw with all of her own friends. And she's like, they're basically her friends now too.
I bet if you asked her, she has other friends.
It just as I want my employer to throw me a birthday party with my employer's friends. And then not only is she throwing her a birthday party with her own friends, but she's going to be late. But that doesn't stop her from stopping at a celebrity event where her kids might get free clothes.
And then when she's getting back in the car from this celebrity event, she can't figure out how to fold down the stroller. And because she doesn't want to be even later, she just abandons the stroller in a parking lot. Instead of there was a parking attendant. I'm sure other people came through the parking lot. Like the way that she would rather abandon an expensive stroller than ask a single human soul for help.
So that they don't think she's spoiled.
Yeah.
I'm like, it is actually so spoiled to be like, strollers are disposable. Anyway, the next day, the baby started crying and Dean looked at her and said, hey, I think the baby's up. And when she went to change the diaper, she said, why exactly did I want to do this?
Ha 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 ha. But also,
then why did you have 3 more kids?
Great question. So now she's back in the neighborhood and having a hard time. They go to this birthday party and everyone is like trying to be nice to her. But she's like, I mean, they're not even being nice. They're trying to be normal to me to make me feel normal.
She goes, I was part of the same act. I was trying to act normal, trying to act like a mom. Of course, I was a mom, but I wanted them to see that I was a normal mom. It didn't matter that I'd lost most of my baby weight. There was an elephant in the room and it was me.
Does being known have to be awkward? Maybe I'm the one who makes it so. When you add my insecurities about being a good mother to the expectation that I'm not a normal mother, you get awkwardness and embarrassment all around. I just want to say it is your responsibility. If it is true that people are uncomfortable around you because of your celebrity, it is your responsibility to put them at ease.
So something interesting is she's like, I have met other celebrities and they seem to be easy. Like once I met Kate Winslet and I'm freaking out that I'm about to meet Kate Winslet and she's just talking to me about normal stuff and being like, oh, you have a son, right?
And she's like, could I just talk to people normal? No, because I'm famous.
So then she gets an invite to Diddy's twin daughter's birthday party and she freaks out about what to buy them. She's like, I don't know what to give them. I've never met these people. I can't believe I'm on this list of this probably huge birthday party. And so she picks out something for the little girls. She says, I had almost settled on an outfit when Dean said they were going to expect a certain level of style from me. My gift had to stand out, I have to say.
What the
One
fuck
thing
is Dean
nobody
talking
has
about?
ever expected from Tori Spelling is like an incredibly stylish baby gift. Nobody's actually expecting anything from Tori Spelling. I cannot believe that she's made it till tomorrow. I don't expect her to get the stuff of her storage unit back out.
Oh, she won't. So then she goes to the party. It's actually a pretty small party. She feels really awkward. Gwen Stefani is there.
She tries to have a conversation with her, but it doesn't seem to go anywhere. But not because of anybody's level of fame, but because I think Tori is horrible to talk to.
And Tori also brings like 4 people.
She's like, I can bring all my friends, right?
And then one of her friends brings her like punch in a plastic cup and she doesn't like it. So her friend is like, oh, let me get you wine. And then they bring her wine in a crystal goblet. And she's so embarrassed to be drinking out of a crystal goblet when everyone else is drinking out of plastic cups. Also, she makes the point to let you know, Diddy is so nice and genuine. So if anyone is saying otherwise, if anyone out there is saying Diddy is not, in fact, nice and genuine, we have actually firsthand proof right here that he is actually so nice and genuine.
So then it turns out that she was invited because Diddy's wife, or the mother of the children, Kim, love her show. And she's like, wait, can I just invite any celebrity I want to my birthday parties? I'm like, well, you can't. Diddy can. There is a pecking order here.
She also is disappointed that the party is not as over the top as she thought it would be. And also the gift bags were like not that interesting.
Meanwhile, when I walked out the front door of our house, I saw curtains open as people peeped at me. So she's like back at her small house and being like, you know what? I don't even have privacy. And sure, I show everybody my life with the world. I don't care about putting it on reality TV. But when I'm home, I should have privacy. And she's like, when I walk out of my front house, I saw curtains open as people peeped out at me. One day when I was walking Stella, a woman came up to us and said, hi, Stella Doreen. And then said, sorry to bother you. I can see you're walking your baby, but I just wanted to say I love the show. I live a block away.
So then she's like, I can't live in a regular neighborhood anymore. This is absurd.
The woman goes, I can't believe you live here. And she goes, I didn't belong. Not because I was too rich or too famous or too snobby, but because none of us could get past the fact of who I was. Nobody was comfortable, including me. I don't think anybody can ever be comfortable around you because you're so uncomfortable.
She's so uncomfortable.
So then they're like, you know what? We actually do need a bigger space with more privacy. We're going to move into a huge house with a guard and a gate. And then she's like so embarrassed because she's like, this is just a normal house, right? Like this is a house a normal person would live in. And everybody's like, this is such a normal house. My makeup artist has worked with me for years and years. When I showed her the website for this new house, her reaction was, now this is the type of house I expect Tori Spelling to live in. Hearing that crushed me. To me, it meant that the house was a rich girl mansion, the right house for the daughter of a mega mogul, Aaron Spelling. I felt embarrassed, ashamed. I'd worked my whole life to get to a certain place, a place where people saw me as a normal person. I know my makeup artist cares about me, and she didn't mean it in a bad way, but what she said tapped into my greatest fears. Normal people don't have long-term makeup artists, Tori. A normal person has never shown their long-term makeup artist the website for the house they bought and said, oh no, does this seem out of touch? I can't believe this isn't normal.
What did your gays have to say about it?
No matter how hard I work to earn the money I have, I could never escape the preconceived notion of how Tori Spelling would live. The problem, Tori, is that it seems you did want to live in the mega mansion. You tried to live in a small neighborhood and you moved out immediately.
Because you hated every single person you met there and you were afraid of them.
The preconceived notion would be dispelled if you did just live in a normal house and people said, oh, actually, she's quite normal. And everybody would go, oh, eventually you would build a normal reputation.
Part of me wants to escape the life that Tori Spelling is expected to live. And part of me is so used to the life that I can't imagine anything else. So she brings her kids to red carpet sometimes.
Well, first she has this game she plays with her kids, which is that they love to say, Liam goes, boobies, boobies, and she flashes him. And I know breasts aren't sexual, but she is like long stopped breastfeeding him. They taught her the word boobs after he stopped breastfeeding. And the joke is that the only person who likes her boob job is Dean and now Liam. And Dean loves to say, that's my boy. You like mommy's boobies just like daddy. So then they're at the park and he's doing his little game where he's going, boobies, boobies, show me your boobies. And she's like, this is crazy. I look like a freak. And so a kid across the street invites Liam to come play. And she's like, okay, go play. But they're on their way to a Prop 8 protest or something. And so Liam's wearing gold shoes. And
celebrity fundraiser.
And again, she's like, oh my God, they probably think he's just so crazy. But I'm not going to tell them that I'm going to a gay thing because what if they hate gay people? I don't know her politics. I want to be respectful. So when the next door neighbor's like, oh, I love his gold shoes. She's like, yeah, it's a joke.
She goes, yeah, when can a kid wear gold shoes if not under the age of 2?
It's so funny that she's like, of course he's dressed in gold shoes. We're going to a gay fundraiser, but I'm not going to tell you that. What if you hate gay people? I don't want to start beef with you. I want you to be my friend. Oh my God. So then she goes to an event and she's stressed because she's like, you have to wear heels so you don't look fat, but I can't walk in heels. So I had to wear wedges. And that's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. Cause like she's like Katie Holmes probably always wears heels.
Can I say I Googled it? I've never seen Katie Holmes in heels with Surrey.
Okay, so then she's talking about how normal their lives are, 90% normal. And like most couples who become parents, Dean and I talk about how having kids changes us. Like the morning ritual. So every day when Liam wakes up, he comes into their room and like we'll watch TV or something. And sometimes Dean will try to have sex with Tori when Liam is in there. And one time she let him and then Liam was watching them and she was like, did I just traumatize my kid? Maybe.
But also maybe not. You probably forgot until you put it in this book.
Also, you have a live-in nanny.
There was that headline that went viral recently where she's like, my kids come with me to the bathroom. And I think you were like justice for Tori. I think she says sometimes the door is open and they're outside. I think we have to say, no, there's something sick with her.
There's something sick with her. So she and Dean have sex 4 times a week, 3 to 4 times a week. But Dean is like pissed off because they used to have sex every day. And like the producers of their show are like 3 to 4 times a week. What the fuck? And she's like, I know, I'm pathetic.
The funny thing is now she's like, we hated each other month 3 of our relationship. So I am like, I can't believe they're having sex at all because they got together and were both married to other people. So they were together in secret. And then the minute they started dating, they were like, oh, I hate you. But then they immediately got pregnant and it was too late. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Would you have a lot of sex in the first 6 months of your public relationship?
So I don't know when she liked him. Like he makes her feel bad. Sometimes Dean will say, where's the girl I met in Ottawa? It's true. The girl he met used to do Jägermeister shots and do the splits in the middle of the floor or pee in potted plants.
What is wrong with these people?
Then I remember I've been pregnant for 2 years. Maybe when I'm back to my old body, I'll be back to my old self. I hope not.
She'll never not be pregnant again.
In some ways, I'm not the girl Dean met in Ottawa less than 3 years ago. I handle myself differently. And now you're a mother of 2. I'm sorry, I'm not saying moms have to be no fun, but like moms should be respectful of other people's potted plants. I feel like there's a level of responsibility in parenthood where you like wouldn't just like piss in a plant.
Is that what he loved about her? Because it seems like they're still piss and shit all over their lives. It's changed, but the shit and the piss is still the same.
Also, Dean likes to ride motorcycles, but she's scared. And he thinks she's a buzzkill. And she's like, no, I'm just like so scared of everything. Why wouldn't I be scared of motorcycles? And that's a good point.
Whatever happens, Dean and I will find our balance. We love our children. We love each other. Time, vacations, adventures, they're all secondary to love. She is now saying like they've never loved each other once.
Yeah. Her relationship with her mom is still on the outs. She wanted to write and like talk to her mom before Storytelling came out, but then she didn't. And so then her mom got really mad about that book. And she's like, why can't I just be honest about my relationship to you? And then she's like, I thought maybe she'd learn something.
Is crazy.
She's like, I thought maybe she'd read my book and understand why she's such a bitch. She didn't call her mom when Stella was born. And her mom put out a statement being like, how nice. And that's kind of where their relationship stands. So she kind of comes to the conclusion her relationship is not a blood family. It's a chosen family.
And the people chosen all work for her.
Yeah. My relationship with my mother has never been good. That news is long out of the closet. In response, I put my heart into my friendships. My friendships are the core of who I am, and a major part of who I am is Queen of the Gays. I can't believe we're recording this during Pride Month. That feels disrespectful.
I mean, apparently not. We're honoring their queen. You would hope during England month you would mention Elizabeth.
The gays that she rules are hoping that Liam turns out gay. There's a gay watch on Liam. Even before he was born, Mayron was worried that Liam would be too straight to hang out with him.
Not when they saw that big nose. Then they said, the straights can have
that uggo. They're very concerned because so far Liam seems very straight. Liam is still a baby. I think when this came out, Liam was 2. The straightest age. Liam seems very straight, but sometimes they see him tiptoeing and they go, there's a chance for us.
That's so homophobic.
Can you imagine?
Also, I think a sign of autism.
But can I say, very in line with how queens treat their people.
Yeah. You're not people, you're peons.
Exactly.
And I will pee on you.
The gays, they love Liam and they were like, please, if you die, we'll take him. And she was like, okay. So she wrote it on a piece of paper and put it in her nightstand that if she dies, her friends can have her son.
What about their father?
Oh, no, they're both dying.
Okay, because that father did kind of already give up one child.
Yeah. So she like wrote a piece of paper and she's like, I don't know if it would hold up in court.
There's no way to find out.
Now she feels regretful that she left that house on Beaver Lane. She's like, I don't know, maybe I could have made friends.
I do think the hardest way to make a neighborhood friend is to move every year.
Yeah.
I do think what bonds neighbors is the fact that they know each other for like decades.
And so the problem is this new house is like so big and scary. And one time she was there without Dean and Liam was scared. And she's like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? Liam's scared. I'm scared. What are we going to do? Had I made a terrible mistake? Was this house everything I'd never wanted? As a child, I had too big of a house. And then she's like, you know what? I just had to figure it out. I can't keep moving. And as we know now, she did keep moving. So that's interesting. As I look at my life now, I'm amazed that things have somehow miraculously sorted themselves out. I will say that's because there was never a problem.
And can I tell you, it's only getting worse. Again, this woman 2 weeks ago took a phone call with her husband who found out that she had divorced him in a press clipping on her podcast, where then she went to her storage units that she was locked out of and couldn't afford to open up. They're like $500 each.
$900. And it was 4 units. You're asking her to have just under $4,000, which as someone who moves houses every couple weeks, that's a lot of money.
Anyway.
Sometimes I sit waiting for the other shoe to drop. I can't believe how fortunate I am. Don't worry, bitch. The shoe will drop.
How fortunate are you?
As I get older, I've started to accept who I was. I ended my first marriage because I had to stop pretending to be someone's ideal wife.
They were together for less than a year, and she was like on location for most of it.
I don't have to figure it all out overnight. I'll make some mistakes, but if I continue to be thoughtful and present, I'll notice them and try to fix them. Okay, I'm so curious.
Do you think she's ever been thoughtful and present for a moment?
No.
I do think if she could for just a moment, she could fix a lot of things, but I actually do think that's an impossible task.
She's still concerned that Liam still likes Dean more than he likes her, but then one time Dean is holding Liam and Liam is like, Mom, and she's like, yes, yes.
It's very hard to get a child to love its mother.
Is it?
That's one of the fight of women's lives, is getting their child to bond with them.
And she says, you know, there are worse things for my children than a Hollywood childhood, which is so interesting because this entire book is about how she is like incapable of functioning in society because of her Hollywood childhood.
Final thoughts?
I cannot wait for the next one.
I have to tell you, I already started it.
Is what I'm hoping.
It's almost better than this one.
How?
Because she doesn't have animals yet in this one.
Oh.
By the next one, she has 17 animals.
That's too many.
And you will not believe how many times she's moved.
What is wrong with her?
It's really insane.
Okay, well, how many wormtinis for Tor?
10. Oh my God, I'd black out, pass out, wake up in a gutter, and then crawl to whatever home she lives in
pig shit.
and be like, hit me with a mimosa, baby. Let's keep it going. I want to live with her. I want to be her nanny.
How fertile would you say this soil is?
100, because something about great art is it takes the moments in life that a lot of people don't look at and makes you realize, like it makes you come alive.
That's so true.
And I feel like, you know, when you see great comedy, you go, oh my God, that's so true. How did I never think of that? That's what this book tells me. Like every day things aren't happening and I never stop and tell the story.
That's so true.
And who do we love the most?
We love our 5-star reviewing wormies.